following program on Other Derana 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations.
Tonight, we delve into the Consumer Affairs Authority of Sri Lanka. With the exorbitant price distortions in the Sri Lankan market hindering the purchase of daily necessities and other goods, what relief can be granted to citizens under the CAA? How does the law uphold consumer rights? How can this government institution be held accountable by the people? What penalties are enforced by this authority, and what does the future of consumer rights protection look like in Sri Lanka? A very good evening and welcome to yet another episode of Law, Land and Liberty, where we bring to you essential information on current events in a legal setting and breaking it down for the layman. Now, the Consumer Affairs Authority has been a topic of controversy due to recent price control issues, again with the dawning new year. And we as a people have been left in the dark on how to take action in such situations. Well, to give our viewers a better understanding of this topic, we have with us Doctor Prathiba Mahanamahewa, who is a professor of law. He's also the rector of Sri Pali Campus University of Colombo, and Dr. Prathiba is also the former Dean of the Faculty of Law in the University of Technology in Jamaica. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your time with us today. So, of course, before we get into the discussion, we have a breakdown for our viewers on how the discussion is exactly going to take place. So, first, we will be talking about the basics of the Consumer Affairs Authority and what provisions allow it to function. Next, we will head straight into the penalties aspect of the authority. What are the repercussions of infringing consumer rights? And finally, we will be talking about potential reforms to the authority as well as the legislature.
Hello, my name is Rakita Muthukumar. I'm an international relations student, and my question to you is on provisions. What is a Consumer Affairs Authority and what legislation governs it?
All right, sir. So without much further ado, let's get right into the discussion. Of course, with your background, sir, you probably have a very vast experience in this field as well. But to our viewers, this is a relatively new concept that we haven't really been knowledgeable about since the very beginning. So if you could start us off, Doctor, with exactly explaining to us the essential nature of a Consumer Affairs Authority. What is a consumer in essence?
Yeah. Now, for example, if you take who is a consumer. Consumer is a citizen. Even a capitalist country, USA former president John F. Kennedy has given a fantastic definition, which definition we follow in other countries also. What he say, include all citizens who are big or small, affected by a corporation or by a government or by any type of trade. So this is where consumer is anyone who is a human being. Once he born to the world, he becomes a consumer. But until age 18, you are a minor. Therefore, you have to enter into a contract with basically a guardian. So all are consumers, big or small. So the consumer and a buyer is different. Buyer means anyone having a contract with the seller or the supplier or the service provider. But if you take a consumer means anyone who may have or who may not have a contract with the shopkeeper or any type of a seller. So then we need a protection for that. That's why in 1979, Consumer Affairs Protection was established in 1979, which is basically Consumer Protection Act, number 1 of 1979. And thereafter, Fair Trading Commission Act to look unfair competition, even unfair trading, those things. Thereafter, we came Control of Price Control Act, which is chapter 173. We will discuss that later. So what I want to tell you, right to feed oneself is a fundamental human right, which has been guaranteed in the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights, as well as 1966 Economic, Social and Cultural Right Convention. That means a state obliged to give the country, people, enough food. But if it is by government, which is coming under essential good items. But in a competitive society, we have other type. Luxury goods are there, semi-essential goods. We can discuss all. So to protect, today there is an act, that is 2003 Consumer Affairs Authority Act. Now today this is a period where everyone going for sale and shopping everywhere. You have to remember this number, 1977. This is where malpractices or even fake traders or differently manipulated by a trader, you can immediately call them. But I have not seen this number even any place, any marketplace. So remember 1979, 1977, there is a hotline.
I see. So that means there is a hotline, but unfortunately it's not being very proliferated in the current context as well. So it has to do with the consumer not being knowledgeable about this issue. So just to get a little bit more in depth into the whole legislature aspect, sir, you mentioned a historical how it came to be. So could you let us know, sir, now everything comprises under the Consumer Affairs Act. So could you tell us how that one act governs those multiple areas? Now price control and all comes under Consumer Affairs Act. So could you tell us how it came to merge and if that was effective?
I think it is more effective, but people are not aware about that. So unfair trade, price control, consumer protection, one and only law is Consumer Affairs Authority Act. So different sections, if you take section 18, it fully discusses the price control. We'll come to that a little bit later. And I want to tell another thing, in this, why people are not much educated. If you go for a shop in Canada, even Australia, every supermarket, before you enter, Consumer Affairs hotline is there. Even I was in Jamaica as a professor for some time. When we do shopping, before entering, you have to put two things. Number one, hotline of the Consumer Affairs Authority, that is a toll-free number. What is toll-free number? It is actually the consumer no need to pay for that. And the other thing very important, Consumer Affairs latest publications as well as latest information which is needed timely must have a number one, it is notice board. Both are not aware in Sri Lanka. Even the price, if you want to buy a car, the price must be properly displayed in a place where public can see it. That is, if you want to buy a car, that price should be there. So we think we have a law, but operation-wise, there are certain issues because we don't much, people also don't believe much on consumer societies. Now this act giving a fund to set up a consumer society, regional or national. So likewise, what we have to do, the awareness of the act. So your question basically how three amalgamated or combined in one act. Yes, separate sections are there. In those sections, we can discuss how all three come into one. That is good one place because operationalized, you don't need to go to separate departments. You can go for it under the Ministry of Trade, which specifically say this education is much important.
I see. So that is how we know that there is a central act that we can go to as consumers in order to consider different varying aspects of injustice that could happen towards consumers. Now, sir, let's direct our attention towards the practical aspect of it. Now, the Consumer Affairs Authority, we know that such an authority exists, but we're really not sure exactly what responsibilities that a Consumer Affairs Authority has, as in what authorities are they, how are they actually protecting consumer rights and how are we to understand what responsibilities they have towards the citizens of Sri Lanka?
Now, Consumer Protection Authority is there to protect the consumer, not the big business or big companies. So therefore, vulnerable parties are consumers. So the act empowers the consumers. If these things are happening, you can go and complain. You can put an online complaint now. If you go to the Consumer Affairs website, I don't know how long it will take, but immediately they will acknowledge your complaint. After acknowledging what they do, they will, if our rights are violated, I'll tell one by one, then they will call for an inquiry. In that inquiry, a settlement can become, or even they can file cases in magistrate courts. So the law is very, very clear. So consumers, you don't need any lawyer to go this Consumer Affairs Authority. Nothing to worry. It's all free. So you can just present your case. So I mean, by individually, every consumer can write or send online complaint. After acknowledgement, you will proceed that. But not only consumer goods, services are also covered. Accountant service, doctor service, lawyer service, auditor service, very less complaints are going. If all these professionals are acting negligently, carelessly, irresponsible way for a consumer, you pay and take the legal service. If it is, losing a case is not negligent. Taking client money, not presenting in courts, it's a negligence. So you can directly go and complain. So 2003 Act, one of the best feature I have seen, which was not there in 1979 Act, which is there in UK also, Supply of Services and Goods Act and the Consumer Protection, we have services covered. But very less people go and complain for that. Now you asked what are our rights which violates, when we can go at what time. Remember, to complain you must have a receipt or an invoice. But there are some receipts on approval. Don't take that. At least you need the company corporation, incorporation number. Even the name is not there, you must have incorporation number and they put the seal. Otherwise, evidence is not there, you can't prove it. Sometimes one of your friend will come and give it to you. Okay, I'll be selling this laptop for this much of money, you'll buy. But later, it can be a stolen good. You can't complain. So I am giving two advice: to escape from stolen goods as well as to impose your rights, you must have evidence. Now these things are there: removing, altering, obliterating, erasing or defacing labels. So now the label is there. You remove the label and you put another label. Now the price control, we will come after that. A violation of direction issued by the manufacturers. They are not selling the quality goods, and goods are not up to the stand, goods are not representing the description, and also goods are not representing the sample, if a sample given, and also catalog given, whatever in the catalog which is not there, the description issue. So definitely you can go and complain there, because these are misinformation, misleading information, misrepresentation, incorrect information, false information, all these things. Now let's say sometimes you see TV advertisement. Can you go and file a case against that? Now TV advertisement, they say, okay, this is the best or something like that, and you can get cure. But those are all invitation to offers. Those are not offers. So you have to very, very carefully look these commercial TV advertisement and the trustfulness and other things. Later we will discuss that. Sale or offer to sell goods above the mark price. If you go to a supermarket or somewhere else, the mark price is there. If that is, they have put higher price, then you can complain. And then you have failure to comply the standards and specification given by the basically Consumer Affairs Authority. Manufacture or sale of any goods which does not confirm the warranty or guarantee. Now specifically vehicles, they give a warranty and guarantee. So both things are not comply with that. Then you have a warranty certificate. Please remember, you have to, international warranty certificates are there. So once you get the warranty certificate, you have to comply and see whether these are standard. Sometimes you go to Malaysia or Singapore, you buy a good, but their agents are not there. So it's very hard to do it. Later we'll discuss how online sales will come into force. And also it is very, very important, refusing to sell goods in possession. This is a very important one. Hoarding. Now, the trader will get a news. Tomorrow morning, the price definitely increased by 10 rupees or 11 rupees. Immediately they hoarding these goods. And therefore, if they are refusing, immediately you have to inform the Consumer Affairs Authority. They have a hotline, I gave it, and the rates done by them. And also, sometimes I saw today news, PHI, Public Health Inspector, a very important person, because he also go and check certain saleable items, food items. These are actually outdated items. So 3,000 cases has been filed. Whether the food fit for our, whatever the consumption standards, yes, those are there. So therefore, Ministry of Health as well as Ministry of Trade, they must have a good network. So we have to get the best service of the PHI, but they are not coming under Ministry of Trade, but they are coming under Ministry of Health. So likewise, some other countries, there is a network. Now we don't have a database at least. Now Consumer Affairs Authority must have a quick, urgent network service. If a complaint comes to their network, immediately the raid must start. Now raid, once you go, sometimes the seller try to, attack you, then you can inform the DIG of the area and get the police protection and go. So everything is there. So the victim should not be the customer. We have to support the victim, right? And also denial of goods possession, imposing conditions and other things, keeping the goods of the custody excess normal trading requirements, that also there, because sometimes they try to give as a control level, right? Today only we give 1 kilogram of sugar. No, it is not there. If it is controlled by the government, that's all right. That's why CW is there. Corporate wholesale establishment. Increase the price of specified goods services without a prior written approval of the authority. Now I like to explain that is little bit more, because how we are going to increase the price, which is very, very clear, which is in the section 14. Consumer Affairs Authority section 14, very clear, agreement to provide for maximum price of the good. So the Consumer Affairs Authority and the manufacturer or producer or seller, they will come for an agreement. In that agreement, they say what is the maximum price. Now, if any association or manufacturer is selling above that price, it's a violation. And you may have heard formula. There's a price formula. And also the other side, you have to see Utility Commission, Sri Lanka. Basically, if you see electricity, water, it go in a different way. But other side, you have to see the gas consumption and all, which is also there is a formula. You can't increase that. Even baby milk powder, all these things. Sometimes the traders sell whatever the price they know. Now see what is happening to eggs. Now Sri Lanka, we have already imported 1 million or 2 million eggs. So the price control is given, okay, 44 rupees. But if you go for a tray, if you go for a shop, 65 rupees, 56 rupees, 55 rupees. Even I purchased today for 56 rupees because we want to, make some cakes. So that is the issue. So even consumers are not bothered to complain whether they come or not. That is inevitable. So ethical traders must be there. Ethical sellers must be there. At least you earn something, but you keep the profit margin, which is according to the law. Other than that, you may not do it. So with this price agreement, if you are selling above that price, it is a violation. So you can complain. Very important one, maximum price of any goods. Before that, I want to tell you, in other countries, you have manufacture date, best before date, expiry date. But in Sri Lanka, in any manufacturer or producer, I have not seen the manufacture date is there, expiry date is there, but best before date is. So even in other foreign countries, what they do, if they pass the best before date and before the expiry date, they will give a reduced price. Sometimes these foods taken to Sri Lanka and selling for the highest price. So that's why we have to see the food commission is there in Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka Food Act, and itself, Sri Lanka Standard. All these must work together. You should not give the burden only to the Consumer Affairs Authority, because we have not networked in other countries. Because if you make a complaint, this complaint going to all the authorities. If it is in Australia, I have seen, only you have to make. But here it goes and go to the database of the Consumer Authority, but sometimes others also can help. This we must see even to protect consumers in future.
It is an interconnected network, and there is a safety net for all.
You must have a central network. If the act has been combined with three formal legislations, but why can't the other, everyone, we are for the consumers. We are all for the consumers and we are all for the citizens. So why you can't, amalgamate or join together and come up one voice? This should be protected. But in the capitalist society, everything depends price, demand and supply. So free market, sometimes you can't go for luxury goods. At least it is very, very clear. I will explain the section 18 of the act. That is the maximum price, which has been gazetted by the ministry. Now it is very clear, section 18, prior written approval for price revision of specified goods are there. So where the minister is of the opinion of any goods or services is essential to the life, to the community. Essential to the life of the community. Let's see what are the goods. Or part of them, the minister in consultation with the authority may be ordered publish in the Gazette prescribe such goods and such services are specified goods and specified services case may be. That means the minister consult with the authority and they gazetted the price. So we have seen for sugar, we have seen for flour, and we have seen very recent for eggs. But still it is not happening. So how many traders you have to arrest? The whole city you have to arrest all the... No, you can't do it. So ethical part also
we actually have to get to the part
Yes.
where the entire aspect of enforcement and the repercussions of infringing on these consumer rights. But before that, let's take a very short commercial break. You're watching Law, Land and Liberty. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Navami Ranasinghe and I'm a medical student. My question is on penalties. What are the legal repercussions of infringing consumer rights?
Welcome back to Law, Land and Liberty. We were in conversation with Dr. Prathiba Mahanamahewa and we were talking about the Consumer Affairs Authority and consumer rights. Now, Doctor, just before the break, we were talking about price control issues, gazetting the recent egg crisis that we had and the hoarding issue as well. Now, all of these things you mentioned, sir, that there are actions taken by the authorities in order to curb such injustices happening towards the consumers, but still we see it in the retail atmosphere. So we should probably move on to the next logical aspect of the entire thing, which is the penalties. So penalties and the enforcement of the penalties. Doctor, are there a specific, so there is, I am assuming, a specific list of penalties that are to be given to retailers that infringe upon this? Could you please let us know?
Yeah. This is not only the retail, wholesalers are also covered. All these traders. Now sometimes you are the manufacturer, but your goods are sold in a supermarket. So the supermarket is liable if they violate whatever the provisions I said. Increased price, hoarding, as well as not putting the notice board. So every shop must have a notice board. If you go to any shop, it's very rare, but some places they have displayed the price. But before I enter, this notice board must be properly in that place. So Consumer Affairs Authority must take immediate action and they can issue fine. Now it is very clear, Section 60, offences and penalties are there. According to Section 60, if a trader selling the goods giving misleading information, misinformation, it is very clear the fine not less than rupees 1,000 and not exceeding rupees 5,000. And also there is an imprisonment, either description for a term not exceeding 3 months or both fine and imprisonment of the first offence. So that is the first offence. If you are doing the same offence once again, the price, the fine and the imprisonment double, which goes to basically 10,000 rupees, and then it is where 100,000 rupees in between that, and 6 months imprisonment. So it is very, very clear the offence and the fine, which is very clearly given. And also if it is a body corporate. Now this is where individual seller or a sole trader selling this 5,000 rupees to 10,000. If it is a body corporate, that means a company, registered company in Sri Lanka, to a fine not less than rupees 5,000 and not exceeding rupees 10,000. And the first offence. And if it is a second offence, it go to rupees 10,000 and exceeding rupees 20,000 in the case of subsequent offences. So all these are very, very clearly given. But now we have to see how many have faced this. Now even this errant, basically those who violated these laws, can we see a website which is not there? So blacklisted, even at the cases are not there. So we can see who are actually doing the same offence several times. So you have to take action according to that. So this is where Section 60 onwards, which is going continuously, how the if any trader violate, what is the punishment as well as the fine.
So when it comes to the fact that there are penalties, now earlier on, sir, we were talking about how there was a gazette that determined the price of eggs. There was no acting on it by traders, retailers or wholesalers. We did not see a compliance with most people. As you just mentioned, you had a personal experience with that as well. So how come, how is that not the word of law? How is it that they are able to do such a thing when we know that it has been decreed by the authority?
Yeah, now this is where my argument, consumer societies must be established. So everyone very interested of taking the service only. When your rights are violated, you are not taking any action. How many patients are there in Sri Lanka? Have you ever seen Patients Protection Authority? Have you ever seen Patients Charter in Sri Lanka? Consumer Charter? Nothing. So therefore, certain steps must be taken. Now, patient societies are there in some other countries. If the doctor is charging a higher level price, but Sri Lanka, we don't have any monitoring system for the private hospitals to regulate the price or how much they charge, and free medicine is given, OPD and all in government hospitals. That is the best I have seen in any other country. Free health, free medicine is not there only in Sri Lanka government hospitals. But when you go for private sector hospitals, we don't know the charge at least. So therefore regulations are very important. Patient charter is very important. But some hospitals, they are displaying and doing that. So if they decree what will happen, we need the association support. So everyone get together and go against those who are violating the law. But business also, they need the profit. Without profit, you can't do it. Now the dollar prices are, basically going high. So you can't give for the same price. So you must have a dialogue. This dialogue must be set up by the Consumer Affairs Authority and have a discussion with consumer societies. I have not seen that. They can call all the consumer societies in Sri Lanka one day, for their authority or any other sophisticated place, and discuss how we are taking action. And also monitoring is very important. CCTV cameras are there. Now CCTV evidence is accepted in Sri Lanka 1995, Evidence Special Provision Act. CCTV, computer, all this, even mobile you can take this type. If it's not adapted, they are accepting. So cases must be drafted. I don't know whether they have the manpower or work force to do all these things, but combined with other departments, combined with other development officers, you can do a better service for the country.
Now, we learned about the fact that penalties exist and the CA can actually enforce these penalties, and there should be an encouragement of a consumer society as well. But
the issue where consumers are not aware. Consumers think this is the right of the seller to sell this price. And also consumers are very busy 24 hours. And how can you go to a courts and give evidence? How can you go to another place? Then the whole day you have to waste. So likewise, that culture has to be set up. At least now most of the courts, they go for e-hearing. Electronic courts are there. Even I have seen in Israel, most of the courts they go with online electronic courts. That system has been set up. And also the consumer data is very important. The data must be protected. Now, if you see certain data, you can't find out. Now, online it is very, very, risky thing. Even you have seen in USA, they have entered Pentagon and taken all these files leaked. So what about data? Let's see. My data I have given all to the consumer. As a consumer, I have given to the authority, or I have given to a private seller. Someone can hack and take all the details, and tomorrow they will send the email, okay, this is the best for you, this is the best medicine, this is the actually disease you are suffering with that. Then I will buy. So both we have to see online now, not physically. Physically records you can keep it, deposit, but sometimes if you do online business, the data protection is very, very important.
There's a data protection aspect as well. That brings me to the issue now, data protection, and basically consumers have been put in a very vulnerable position because of exactly the nature of a consumer. We have to listen to whatever the retailers are telling us, and we have to believe or choose to believe such things. Now, my issue is fundamental rights. Now, we understand, we spoke a little bit about fundamental rights in the first segment. Could you explain to us exactly how pivotal the Consumer Affairs Authority role plays when it comes to upholding fundamental rights, and if there is such an infringement, can the CAA be held liable for these things?
Yeah, now fundamental rights are incorporated and guaranteed 1978 Constitution, Chapter 3, very clearly. Now, right to feed oneself, or a person cannot die because of the hunger, that is not there in the fundamental right chapter. Sri Lanka. That means economic rights we have not guaranteed and protected. But still duties are there. State duties, Article 27, it's a duty only to provide these type of services and facilities for the population. But that violated, you can't take any action. So as a fundamental right, you can't go your economic right or consumer right violate. But the issue, if the public sector, now fundamental rights only an action executive or administration. If it is a public sector, let's say CWA, if someone be treated and discriminated and not given for one person, they fairly treated, and for the other person, they didn't treat him. So likewise, you can go for a FR case on that. But other than that, Consumer Affairs Authority, if the act, whatever the right specifically stated, if violated, then it is not a fundamental right. So you can't go to Supreme Court. Basically, what you can do, you can go for the council. Under this Consumer Affairs Authority, there is a council. That council can take action.
So there are specific specialized segments under the Consumer Affairs Authority that can handle it. So it is an integrated system, but it has not been utilized, I feel.
Now, the sections are very clear. As I'll explain once again, I will tell what are the specific sections which is there, you can take action, right? It starts from Regulation of Trade Part 2 of the Authority Act. And first one is Section 11. Section 11 say selling or offering to sell above the marked price is an offense. So if that is happening, you have to complain to Consumer Affairs Authority. And second one, Article 12, determining the standard specifications and also relating to the goods and supply of services, which is there. So standards are gazetted by the Consumer Affairs Authority, and that is violated. You can go to complaint and Consumer Affairs Authority. If their directions or directives or recommendation not carried out, they can go to courts. And the other one is Section 13, authority basically to into the complaint. You have to handle those complaints. And 14, I explained, if with the authority and a group of association, if they come for a agreement for maximum price is there, you can't sell above that maximum price. Then 15, Section 15 is there, refusal to sell goods to be an offense. So you can't refuse to sell. Whatever displayed, you have to pay it. Section 16 is there, denial of possession of any goods or possession, trade or the sale of such goods subject to the condition of the offense. Section 17, hoarding, we explained that. Section 18, increase the maximum price where it has been gazetted. So these are the rights. If these rights are violated, you can't go to Supreme Court. What you have to do, it is not a fundamental right violation, it is only a consumer right violation. So you have to go to the council. If the council is not actually acting, so you can go to Court of Appeal and take a writ. That part also.
So then now that we know exactly, it's very clear about the fact that there are actions we can take. Now, filing a complaint has to be the initial thing that a consumer does when there's an injustice. So could you exactly tell us, now is it just a simple process of mailing the Consumer Affairs Authority, or is there methods that we can take as consumers to complain to the Consumer Affairs Authority of these injustices?
Now it is very, very important. The language also. If you go to Consumer Affairs Authority, 3 languages they display. That's a wonderful thing, and also they respect the language policy and language right in Sri Lanka, Sinhala, Tamil as well as English. So what you have to do, if you think one of your rights violated, number one, you must have the receipt, and also you take some photos of the product, because sometimes they will say no, it is not like that. So take some photograph, and thereafter no need a lawyer. What you have to do, like a normal layman, write whatever the suffering and distress and what your rights violate, and attach that original signature as well as the receipt and send it to the council authority, and then they will have a inquiry. Otherwise, you can go to the online. Even I made a complaint online. So the papers or even the receipts you have to attach and send it. So they will investigate first. And sometimes they say, no, your rights are not violated. Then what you can do? So every complaint they will acknowledge, and later they will say it is not coming to our purview. Your rights are not violated. Then what will happen? Then you have to go against the authority why your complaint was not basically, inquiry has been done, on what grounds. And also remember, you have a Right to Information Act. Under the Right to Information Act, even certain information which is in the authority, as a consumer or a citizen, you can take. So take all these things into consideration. Be cool once your rights violated. So you just write a letter, no need legal provisions, nothing, but according to the Act, you can mention what rights are violated, as I explained earlier. And also you need evidence and backup information, photographs, everything you see.
So then, just quickly before we go into a break, now we know that we can complain directly to the Consumer Affairs Authority, but there are some people that take direct action, like if they are getting a product and they can complain directly to the person that sold them that product, the seller, the retailer or the wholesaler. How does that work? Does that also come under the purview of the CAA?
Yeah, excellent. That question where I see in a different angle. Every company they have return policy. Now, if you buy a product in USA, even 1 month you can use and you can return because they have a return policy. But return policy is not there in many companies in Sri Lanka, and it is not coming under a law also. But 1979, you have the Unfair Contract Terms Act. Under the Unfair Contract Terms Act, if something basically after consuming the product, if the person got injured or if he died, then that action can be taken. But certain actions are there, you can talk directly to the consumer. That is where amicable settlement. That amicable settlement come through a negotiation. In other countries it is happening. So you have to read the return policy of that company. So return policy of any company, it is not compulsory. That even the Consumer Affairs Authority can educate the sellers, educate the manufacturers, and you have to come up with that. But even after now, this return policy in a receipt, after purchasing only you may have seen that. Then it's very hard. So every company or every manufacturer must display their return policy once the customer enters. So that is stage number 1. It's like coming for a settlement. Then if you fail, you can go for the council and then for the court cases.
So there are
I don't think for 1 cup of yogurt you will go for a court case.
Exactly.
They will just forget about it. But you have to remember, not the price, but the complaint and the standard and specifications are very, very important.
So there's a specific segment as well, considering the online transactions and all. But before that, I guess we're going to have to go into a separate segment and consider potential reform aspect of this as well, because there is a little bit to improve when considering the discussion between you and me, sir. So before that, let's go into a very short commercial break. You're watching Law, Land and Liberty. Stay with us.
And I'm an undergraduate student studying mechatronics. My question is about potential reforms. What issues must be addressed when considering the reform of the legislation?
Welcome back to Law, Land and Liberty. We were in conversation with Doctor Prathiba Mahanamahewa. We were talking about the Consumer Affairs Authority and what rights we consumers have and how exactly to take action in the face of injustices. Now, just before we left off, Doctor, we were talking about exactly how we can complain and what actions we can take, especially between the seller directly and, of course, directly to the Consumer Affairs Authority. But a new aspect of this entire scenario is the online transactions. Now, a lot of us, I feel like watching online transactions. We buy off of certain third-party portals, but then the product that arrives at our doorstep is not something that is up to standard with what we were promised. So what exactly can we as consumers do when it comes to injustices of the online sense?
You are talking about e-commerce. Now, e-commerce, United Nations Commission for International Trade Law, they have come up with a model law, 1996. Based on that model law, Sri Lanka also introduced our law, 2006 Electronic Transaction Act, which amended 2017. It specifically say promote, encourage, facilitate domestic sales as well as international sales. That means Sri Lanka now in the path of e-commerce. But the problem, if it is one jurisdiction, very easy to catch the man. But he may be in Europe, he may be in North America or any other country. Now what action we can take? So all these, they have developed websites. Now famous website, I don't want to tell the names. Based on those websites, you go and order goods. But you have to be very, very careful. Fake websites are there. Now, how do you know whether it's original or not? I'll give a clue. If you go to FBI USA and key the name, then you will see whether it's a fake one or not. So they give a service. So a lot of other things are there. I have seen many, even my friends, they have got trapped into a fake website. Now they can't trace. Then you have to go and complain to CID. Sri Lanka, CID, Criminal Investigation Department, they will actually investigate and see. All right. Now this is an original, authenticated website. Then you go and actually visit that website. You order the goods. Once the goods are delivered to your doorstep, you open and see, oh, whatever I ordered is not there. Then you have to write, because they also have a return policy, and also according to their rules and regulations, you can return that. Sometimes they will deposit your money, or else this all come with trust and confidence. E-commerce or business are not legal part, because this came in Lex Mercatoria long time back, Merchant of Venice in Greece. The trust is very important. Otherwise, you can't do any business, right? Okay. So if the goods are in not quality, at least you can go and now complain to the Consumer Affairs Authority. So they handle online complaints also. So they try to give some type of justice. This is very important. Equal justice to every citizen of this country.
I see. So now, considering the online aspect as well, to build on what exactly you said, Doctor, we are not being given receipts sometimes. We're not, maybe it's through a social media app, you found an account that sells these things. Yes. So things like that, do you think the consumer also has a responsibility in that sense when getting to purchase?
Very good question. I have seen, I can't tell, these are multinational companies in Sri Lanka. They have taken their trade name, trademark, and put in your Facebook and selling these type of things for the reduced price. You have to be very careful. These companies, what they do, their products, someone can, get it, and this is a copyright violation, trademark and trademark. But those FB pages are not running for a long time. So you have to authenticate whether this is a original or even a fake one. Now, how many fake pages are there? Even FB fake pages, you have to complain to FB, USA, and then only they will take action, right? Now, first thing, you don't get a receipt. What you have to do, download that Facebook page or take a camera photo and keep it. That is more than enough. And also the web address, .lk, .com, .org, that is very important, because the hosting and the registered part is there. And also online dispute resolution, that's another big topic where we can see if any disputes is happening now, go for arbitration, online arbitration also there. So what I want to tell you, see whether this is the original one. Otherwise, you don't want to go and buy anything. But a lot of people now doing virtual business. In future, virtual business is developing, and also virtual shopping, and your goods are delivered to the doorstep. If it is the country, no problem, one jurisdiction. If it is another country, you have to be very careful. Once you enter, you pay, that is your receipt. So you put into the shopping cart. First you do the web shopping, select items, put into the shopping cart, and thereafter they will ask confirm. That receipt you have to keep.
So we have to go into the reforms aspect as well,
yes,
right, Doctor? Because now there's a lot. There's online, there's in real life, there's the price control issue, but there's still a lot more to build on the Consumer Affairs Authority and what rights are awarded and what protections are given to consumers. So in your opinion, exactly how do you think we should approach this reforms issue? Do you think it will happen through the authorities?
Authorities, they are not only for the raids. They must have a wider education. That is number one. If consumers are educated about their rights, what action they take, then that is the number one thing we can reduce and stop most of these violations and what are the offenses they do it. So number one, have a wide network with other societies, have a education. For that, the Consumer Affairs Authority, they have to set up consumer societies, because one authority can't do anything. They must join with the society. So civil society participation is much important. That is there. Number two, you must have most of the time go and sudden checking. They do the raids, but when you do the raids, how these type of information and reports are kept. And also very, very important, as I first said, the Consumer Affairs Authority, whatever the information they diverge for the consumers, must have it. And also you must check, spot checks must be there, and check whether the notice boards are there, price has to be established, and educate consumers to get into that. And the other one is unfair competition. Now in the unfair competition, even we can see payment sellings are there. Now today, a lot of payment hawkers are there, they sell it. Whether they have the right to sell, that is another issue. So therefore, Ministry of Trade as well as Consumer Affairs, they must have a link and see the best for that. And also, you must have another thing, best before the date, which is not there in Sri Lanka. We have manufacturing date, and also we have the expiry date. Before that, you have to best before date. And also, you must have inspectors, that is where price control inspectors may be there, but they must also go and check certain visits. So, immediate reporting system must be there. Even a trader can, complain against another trader, which is not there in Sri Lanka because they do their business. So, likewise, most of the time, online transactions, how it work, when it come to the taxation and dispute resolution, all these things must come into our law. So we recognize the electronic signature, but that is also like Canada, if they have extended electronic signature. So we must go up to that standard.
Right, and of course there has to be a lot more that has to be done when it comes to the improvement and the protection of consumer rights, but I believe we are well on our way, and there has been certain improvements. We just need to go a little bit further, and we have to be more knowledgeable about our rights as well as consumers. Well, thank you very much. That is all the time we have for you today, Doctor. Thank you very much for enlightening our audience regarding exactly what their rights are and what provisions have been awarded to us that we have not been using yet. So I believe our viewers can walk into shops and stores in a much more knowledgeable manner, so that we do not have to face such injustices, especially during this festive season. So thank you very much, Doctor, for your time.
Thanks.
All right, well, with the continuing advancement of production in the 21st century, the consumer is no longer the judge, jury and executioner. However, it is important that we as consumers continue to hold our institutions accountable for quality and safety as well as justice. Having passed World Consumer Rights Day, it is only fitting to leave you with words that commemorate its importance. In the words of Nitin Gadkari, the Indian Minister of Road Transportation and Highways, on World Consumer Rights Day, let's recognize the power we have as informed and responsible consumers to make a difference in the world. Let's commit to being conscious consumers and using our choices to positively impact society. That is all we have for you tonight on Law, Land and Liberty. If you missed any of today's programs, you can always rewatch by catching us on our YouTube page, youtube.com/othertharenglish. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.